So second sort of follow-up, you touched on this a little bit, but in your answer to the transportation budget question, you mentioned that with the planning process based on inclusiveness, creativity, and mutual goodwill, we can solve the conundrum.
On the school transport.
Yes. We thought that sentiment was lovely but slightly vague.
It is vague. It's actually vague on purpose.
Yeah, well, we're hoping to nail you down on that a little bit to give us a sense of what does this process actually look like to you? How do you think it would work?
Well, it's a process that I've seen it work and seen be ignored by the city. Not so much in terms of schools, but I can give examples. I suffered for over 2 years on the CAC for the Arborway yard. It was an absolute fruitless waste of time, spinning wheels. I've been through a lot of these things that are essentially established to sap people's energy so that people in power can do what they want. But when I was doing that, I did find myself working with really good professionals based right here in the community who had experience in planning and design, who had experience in transportation, who had experience in community organizing. We set up incredibly productive charrettes, drawing on people from, a 3/4 of a mile catchment around that project, with hundreds of people engaged, spending hours and hours, essentially presenting their dreams and their ideas about what they want those planners to deliver. And that's the way it's supposed to work. Like I said, you're supposed to treat the client like the community like they're the client. Or vice versa, I guess, I don't know. But the way it works now is people feel ignored. They go and put in all this work. They get dissed. And when they get angry, they go in and they do two things. First of all, they start to try and micromanage things. And they try to pretend that they're architects, and they usually aren't. And then they just say no to everything. So you have big screaming matches that go on for weeks or months. And in the end, when everybody's absolutely hoarse and totally spent, the MBTA or the city does whatever the hell it was that they wanted to do in the beginning. That's certainly what happened down there at the other way. So I've seen models of community planning that produce great results that are essentially based on open-ended affinity groups that coalesce, come up with goals, and then they create smaller affinity groups that then form a set of clear goals. It's not that hard to do. Most community organizing is done that way. And we can do that for our big projects too. We just have a sort of a pig-headed power structure.
We're going to do a couple audience questions, and then if we've got time, I've got one more questionnaire question. Do you feel the city council is large enough to represent Boston?
No, I don't. Boston is a really huge place. I know that, those of us, the longer you live in Boston, the smaller it seems. But in fact, it's a vast area geographically. It's a huge population. These city council districts, I can't remember the exact ratio, but they approach the size of legislative districts at the higher end. It's very hard for somebody, and I know this from talking to people on the council, it's very hard to cover all the turf. Somebody always ends up feeling ignored. And plus you have the systemic problem where the councilors who have no real power are essentially errant people carrying complaints and wish lists to the mayor's office. So anytime somebody feels that their letter to Santa did not get delivered, you're blamed for it. Yeah, it's a pretty crappy setup. I think that we should have a larger city council with a smaller legislative docket, that's compressed, sort of like the New Hampshire legislature or something like that. Any honest candidate will tell you that most constituent services are done by the staff. Goodness knows Matt should tell you that when he comes in here later tonight, because that's what he's done as a living. Anybody who comes up here and says they're going to give you better constituent services than the next guy is really kind of pushing it, because we're all in a good position to get good constituent services if we're polite and we hire the right people and we know the territory. So, that shouldn't be the issue. The real issue is too broad a field.
Second audience questions, two-parter. Which city councilor are you looking forward to? Oh, I don't know.
I don't mind.
Which city councilor are you looking forward to partnering with and why? And who are you not looking forward to working with and
I'll
why?
be calling Sam Yoon a lot out there in Washington. Actually, to tell the truth, the first people I'm going to talk to are people like Tom McDonough and Rich Giordano and a whole laundry list of people who've done all the scut work for the city councilors over the years and know who's having a feud with who, what can actually get onto a legislative docket, who's going to screw you. That's who I'm going to talk to first. I mean, there are people that I sympathize with ideologically, but I know where the real scoop is inside the building. It's the people who carry the water.
I'm sorry? Yeah, we'll do the commissioners in the department. What committees would you like to join, and which would you most like to chair?
Arts Committee, just because it's something dear to my heart, clearly. I feel very strongly that the city should have a real cabinet position for the arts, something that was greatly to Mayor Flynn's credit, where he had a real office for the arts and humanities, which a lot of people don't realize is very important, not just to the city's cultural identity, but it's central to our economy as well. And right now it's been shunted into a little side corner of the Office of Tourism, which is wrong in many ways that I won't list. And certainly my involvement in theater and music and literature over the years predisposes me to that. I'd like to be involved in transportation, and I'd like to be involved in education. Whether I get to chair something, I don't care, as long as somebody listens to me.
Great. So, final audience question. If anyone else has one, there are a couple minutes still. In your environment answer, you didn't mention Greenspace. Can you talk about what you would like to see regarding Greenspace improvement?
Yeah, I have an answer that's going to piss off a lot of people. I really consider myself an environmentalist. I belong to a raft of organizations like the Sierra Club and Defenders of Wildlife, Mass Audubon. And I consider myself a pretty good amateur scholar of the history of parks and open spaces in American cities and the way Boston became shaped the way it is. It's a source of great fascination and interest. One of the problems we have here in Boston is a misunderstanding of the living role that parks play. That they're not passive places. They have a role that's unique unto themselves. Parks are parks. They're not vacant lots where you put sports facilities. They are not anchors for useless green space around the edges. Parks are focal points for the community. They're places to gather, and they're places for people to find, spiritual solace and to reconnect with nature in a crowded setting. And what a lot of people don't seem to understand at both at the community level and the planning level in the city of Boston, and this is expressed in our zoning code in various ways that I won't go into, is that one of the best things that you can do for parks is to create congested areas next to them. It's true. Right now, we have a zoning code that says you have to check with the Parks Department, and you can't go over a certain height next to a park, and you have to have some trees, so you have a little mini parklet that nobody's going to use because it's within 50 feet of the park. Well, that's a bunch of crap. What makes parks alive is people shoved up against it. Go to a park that really works, like the Common, like Central Park, like Golden Gate Park, all the great examples that people, or Prospect Park, the examples people use are really vibrant, central, urban green spaces. And one thing they have in common is intense population density all around them. So that people are shoved out of the street and into the woods. And they interact there. We haven't gotten that message in Boston. We've done ourselves a disservice. Franklin Park is a great example. Franklin Park is an embarrassment. It's a beautifully designed place. It should be a national destination. And it's been treated with contempt by our city government. And sadly, by some of the people who live nearest to it. And I'm a big booster for the Franklin Park Coalition. Was that cogent? I can go on about that forever and ever. So.
Cool, so we don't have any more audience questions, I think, so we'll move to the closing. You can take about 2 minutes for closing.
Sure. Well, since I didn't do my big full-bore stump at the beginning, I'll talk a little more about why I'm engaged in this race. Unlike some people in politics, I actually have a life. I have a family. I have a business that's doing pretty well. I feel I'm very at home in my community. I'm a happy guy. And this liberates me in a political context because I don't have to worry about somebody trying to sabotage my political career, because career is not my goal in doing this. No, that's not it. I want to see this place be better. And I know a lot of politicians come out and they say, oh, I learned all about people while bagging groceries at Roach Brothers. Oh, I'm all about service. And they try to boast about how altruistic they are. Well, I'm not going to bullshit you about this. I'm very selfish about this. I want to live in a really cool place. I want to live in a place where people are fed and housed and happy, because that's the place where I'm going to be safe and my family is going to be happy. Okay? Now, I like all of you guys, but I'm pretty self-interested about this stuff. And I think that I can approach city government with a very independent voice. I think that I'm the only person in this race who can really go out and not only speak about the structural deficiencies in the way the city is run, and we've only touched on the surface here tonight. I can talk about these things in an aggressive way without fear of retribution. But I also think that after years and years of being engaged in the community and doing grassroots organizing, I'm not only a good listener, but I'm a good enfolder. I really think that I have the capacity to make the coalitions, not only on the council, but at the grassroots level and at the state level, that are going to be necessary to really fundamentally change the way this city works. And even if I don't get it done from the city council, I can tell you that I'm going to use all of the tools available to me as a city councilor to make sure that that issue is front and foremost over the next 2 years, and that it continues to be until we've solved our profound operational failures in achieving a real democracy in this city. That's what I want. We have a gatekeeper culture in Boston City government. Jim here, Matt, these guys, they're really nice, and I respect them. And they want to be the best exemplars of this system that they can be. That means that when you go to them and ask them for a favor, they will be generous, and they will give you that favor, and they will open the gate. And you will be grateful to them. You will then become a part of the existing system. I'm saying to hell with that. I'm not a gatekeeper. I'm a gate opener. I want everybody in this room to be able to take care of them damn selves. Nobody should be approaching City Hall on their knees. Nobody should be approaching their city councilor or their mayor on their knees. We deserve autonomy, and we deserve a voice downtown. And that's what I want to be. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you.